So as I'm going through this Islamic journey and I'm learning about the religion of Islam, of course I'm realizing that the Muslims are pretty strict in regards to their idea of halal and haram. Now, I would ask, the thing that I'm wondering really, and as I'm looking at it, is like, do the haram things, the things that are considered haram in Islam, do they harm you as an individual, and how so? Because I think that the things that if I, my argument essentially to myself is that the things that affect you in this world, they affect your soul. So if you do something bad, do you feel bad about it? Right? Like giving to the poor is a halal thing to do because it's good for everybody else, but it also you get a feeling of good. You know, charging. I have a guy in business that I was working with, and he owed me money, and he said to me, "Okay, I owe you money right now, but if you want, charge me interest." And I said, "I don't know if I can do that because it feels wrong." Turns out, charging interest is haram. Right now, whether it's with the banks, this, that, it's a totally different conversation. Things get really, really strange in this Western society about what's real. But the reality is that if you have somebody that owes you money and you charge them interest, according to the Quran, it's in really Surah Baqarah. It's right there. It's haram to charge people interest. Pretty sure it's in Surah Baqarah. It's haram to charge people interest. So, what is charging interest? Let's just talk about interest for a second. What does charging interest do? Well, it takes advantage of people who cannot pay for the thing that they have, right? Now, gaining interest from the bank at this percentage, totally different conversation. I don't know. I'm not a religious scholar. I don't know. But I do know that if you loan somebody money because they're in a sticky spot and then you charge them because they owe you money, you're putting that person in a worse predicament. What's the solution? I don't know. I'm just saying that I can understand the logic behind that. But for me, probably the most important thing, the idea is how you live your life, the Western point of view versus the Islamic point of view, and how you should live your life with the relationships of men and women. It's very important because the Islamic perspective of the relationship between men and women is the exact antithesis to the relationship between men and women in the West. Now, I know this, and in the West, things have changed very drastically. So, in first of all, the preconceived notion in the West that progress is good, again, is the opposite of the Islamic idea that progress is good, because progress can be good technologically, progress can be good in a lot of ways, but you don't want to be progressive in regards to your ideologies, in regards to your morality. If morality is always changing, where do you get the absolute morality from? Going off on a tangent again, I'm sorry. I'll go back to relationships between men and women. So in the West, what do we do? Well, when you're 16, I think I was 18, 19, when everybody got Tinder. And what do you do on Tinder? Well, if you are relatively promiscuous, you swipe on Tinder, you do a little bit of texty, and then you know your kids really, you pick each other up in private, and then everybody does the ugly bumping, and everything's good to go. Now we do know from a scientific perspective that when you're bumping the uglies, what happens? Oxytocin which is a bonding chemical, is released inside of your body. And this is important because what happens is essentially long story short, is that you create bonding chemicals with a lot of people that you actually don't know really well. So you meet somebody, and maybe after the first date you bump uglies, or maybe you're prude, and after the fourth date you decide to bump uglies. I'm laughing because that's not prude. After that, and then what happens after 3 months, 4 months, 2 years? You break up, and then you do it again, and then you break up, and you do it again, and then you break up, and you do it again. So if you look at the two things that are destroying the West, the two things that seem to be destroying the West is low birth rate, high divorces. So if let's just deal with high divorces at first. Is it possible? Because there's an idea, and the idea is called the I forget what it's called, but whatever, names are just names. There's the illusion that you can always have something better. So you have your relationship with your girlfriend, and maybe you guys get into a fight. And you're thinking, why would I stay in this relationship with this girl where I can go on the app, swipe, and then I'll have this girl who can give me everything that this girl can't give you, or guy, or whatever. The problem is that you're creating a fantasy in your head of what another person can give. Because what you're doing is you're addicted to the dopamine of finding another person, finding another person, finding another person. So essentially what you're doing by bumping uglies with a bunch of random people, whether it's after 3 dates, 4 dates, 2 months, whatever, right? You're doing with a bunch of random people, is that you're addicted to the pursuit. You're addicted to the dopamine of being attracted to being attracted and attractive to another person and by another person. So what's actually happening here? Well, what's actually happening here is you're becoming addicted to gaining new people in the relationship, seeing new stimuli, and then ending it off and getting another person. So then you get married. You get married and you don't understand love. Why? Because you've been in 7 different relationships and they've all failed. And the first thing that you did was you didn't try to make it work. You didn't do it for yourself. You didn't do it for a moral equivalent. You just did it for your own happiness. Now, when you're pursuing your own happiness, as soon as the other person doesn't make you happy, what are you going to do? You're going to break up with them, find another person. So now you're married with kids. And now you have 2 kids. But now you're divorced. Because you thought that your happiness was the most important thing, and your husband or wife thought the same thing. So now there's another guy living in your house with your kids, and you are now bumping uglies with a new person. Do you think that you'll find happiness there? Do you think you'll find happiness there? The struggles that are happening inside the West is essentially that. The divorced children, the children of divorce, are absolutely depressed. They don't have any guidance. Some of the people don't even know who their father is. So if you live in a society in which people don't even know who their father is, or they live in a broken home, what do you expect out of that society? What do you expect out of that society? Now, at the same time, the people who are choosing not to get married, what are they doing? Now, this is just a perspective. Push back, please. I can push, and pull. My mind is continuously being made up. It's relatively open when it comes to things, so give me an argument. But the next thing is, imagine you do not get married. So then you bump uglies, but you use contraceptives. So you're bumping uglies, and now you're using contraceptives. But you're bumping uglies with a lot of new people, and now you can do the dopamine chase of finding another girl or finding another guy. But you never have to. The kid is the manifestation of a love relationship, or it's a boinking relationship. But you don't want to have kids, so you use a contraceptive. So now you never build a family because the pursuit is actually to make the limbic system happy. This part of the brain there, to make the limbic system happy and find a new girl, find a new person, find a new guy, and so on and so forth. So then the birthing rate goes down. And the birthing rate goes down. So because of that, people are not having families, which means that a lot of new people are coming into the society. Now, those new people create friction inside of the society, and then the society itself, how it was, changes towards this progressive way. So now, if you look at a society, and I'll make the argument, please push back, the society, the nucleus of a society is the nuclear family, or is the family, is a family, is the relationship between a man and a woman and the children. So if you have this society that doesn't value that anymore, which it clearly doesn't, what do you expect? Well, do we not have a puzzle here? Do we not have the reason why a lot of people are on SSRIs, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors? And what selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors essentially do is they keep the flow of serotonin inside of the brain. They inhibit the reuptake of the serotonin, so more your brain is flooded with serotonin. So you have this illusion of happiness because there's a serotonin flow. But your serotonin is dependent on where you are inside of your society, and essentially if you're living a decent life inside of society. So this is the argument for halal and haram in regards to a relationship inside of that society. The reason, and one of the reasons why people are, I believe, that people are living in a poor way mentally is because that they're living outside of their nature. They are living outside of how they should be living. Which begs the question, is there an absolute morality? Can the morality be chosen by the society? Well, look at the society. If our morality is chosen by the society, it's clearly not working. So why would you make that argument that it is working? It's clearly not working. So then there has to be an absolute morality. And this is the argument for halal and haram. This is the argument that I've seen. I'm reading the books. I'm doing the lectures. I'm curious if Christianity has the same thing, but we cannot, just because there's some people who are religious and not good, doesn't mean you throw away the book. Read the things of your ancestors beforehand, and you'll find knowledge in their stuff. Good luck. Thank you so much. Good